So let's really quickly review what we've already done thus far so that you guys have it on the video. First up, I went into home. I created a get form that allows us to search. The search is going to be nothing more than we're going to basically do a starts with. So if the game name starts with whatever you're searching for, fantastic. We'll try to return it. We went into the game tracker controller. We kind of added the search into the actual controller argument so that it can pass in that request parameter. Then we added this at the top. Notice it's incomplete and there's syntax errors because now we're on the repository. We need to come up with a custom query in the interface that will allow us to basically grab any game that starts with the name provided. So with query, you just do @query and give it a custom SQL statement. Now, for the most part, you have a certain way that you know that we've normally done SQL statements. Unfortunately, it's not really unfortunate, it's just, it is what it is. The syntax for SQL inside of JPA is a little bit different, so kind of watch out for the nuances. The first thing is we're going to do select G. So instead of select star, I'm going to do select G from game G. Now, actually, I'm just going to write this out real quick and then explain it. Where G.name like (1) parentheses. Weird. Or it's not percent sign. Okay, so basically the syntax is close, but not quite, all right? So first thing to notice is from game. That is not our table name, is it? Our table name is games. But the syntax requires that you actually point at the class name that you're using if you're inside of JPA. Then it can go and look up the @tables configuration that you've done and determine what the actual table is. So you need to do the class name. Then you always alias it, right? Games G. You could do games as well, but you always alias it, okay? The select G, like you might do select star normally. Select G is basically saying please select this table. You can do column names if you want. Just make sure you reference G dot whatever. You do your column name. So G dot name, G dot platform, things like that. The last thing that's kind of odd is that $1%, okay? The percent sign is not odd. That is literally the like statement, right? That's how you do likes, is that you can use the wildcard characters and it will do anything starting with this. Now, the $1 is actually what you're looking at. The $1 is nothing other than saying, please take the first argument passed and put it into that query. Does that make sense? So since the first argument that's passed is string name is going to go in there. It's going to do its auto escape thing. And then it's going to put percents after it so that it can search from here on. Okay? So as long as it starts with it, it's fine. All right, questions on that? So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to do find my name starts with. We're just going to give it whatever search was. And I'm going to try to compile it because it's erroring, which gives me great pause. Run, run. Oh, there it is. I was so used to looking in the middle. All right, let's go back over here, refresh, do a search, star. That totally didn't work. Why didn't that work? I don't need, oh no, I ran it.
Where is it supposed to put the search, when the search results? Where are they supposed to?
It's just a filter. it's not popping up anything. The same place that they normally come from is where they're going to be again. If it would work, which it's not, which is sad. So I totally did this morning and it worked fine. All right, so search star. Find my name starts with. Game list is nothing, so our query is just flat out not working. If I have to do this. Let's try it, see what happens. See what happens, Captain. Did I do a method breakpoint? There we go. All right, so got, whoa. Oh, that didn't go well. Method with that parameter did not exist. Bet it did. Let's try this, see if this works. All the more reason not to do custom queries. In general, I don't use a lot of query equals just because it's never really, for the most part, I'm either doing all my queries custom or I'm doing basically none of my queries custom. All right, so this, okay, fine, it didn't work, but I'm totally okay with that. All right, so let's do, first I'll have to do star capital S, otherwise I won't find it. Still won't find it, which is fine. All right, so let's go back into the repository and try to figure out how to make this work. So in theory, this should work. That being said, it is yet to work for us, so we'll see. Man, why is this not working? All right, let's do. That should totally work. I don't know why it's not working. Oh, but I bet I can find out why. And since you guys are just sitting there. So this is, I give you this link inside of your homework. So I'm just kind of going through to try to find where it says what this does, because there is one that does this. Huh. What if we do, what if we have to do something a little bit crazier? Although I'm confused why the example is not working, but let's do this, and then inside of here, inside of our controller, this will tell me if I'm correct or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to do find by search, and I'm just going to add a % sign at the end of the actual string I'm passing in to see if that works. It may or may not. I honestly don't know if it will. The good news is that even with this, the reason we're having a problem is that % sign is kind of weird. It's after the $1, which I don't think it's picking up correctly, which is why this will, if this works, that will tell us what's going on. Okay, I'm now tired of you debugging. And it totally didn't work either. All right, so let's go back. We're gonna try an experiment here. Wait, do I have any games? Oh, holy crap. All right, disregard the last 5 minutes of this video. So what happened was that I thought I had games in here, but I had gone ahead of where you guys were, and I blew away my database. So I have like literally no games in there. So the reason it's not working is because I have no data. So let's go back. I'm going to quickly add some data, and then we're going to see which of them is actually, which of them works. Because I was confused why our curriculum would have, this is exactly what our curriculum has. I'm like, why would you put this in there if it didn't work at all? And that was the other thing. I got it to work. And I'm like, well, what's the deal? All right, give me adventure game. Someone give me an adventure game. Anybody? What do you think? Sonic the Hedgehog? Platform, probably PS4, release year like, I don't know, 1998 or something like. Actually, I think it's even before that. All right, Eddie, RPG game.
Dark Souls.
Which one?
Xbox One.
Any idea when it was released?
2010.
Okay, Nigel, you're up for a strategy game. Sure. It was on PC. Any idea when it was released?
2010.
All right, shooter, foul. I call that a shooter. They come out with one of those every 2 years as well. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. So that works perfectly fine. The very first one works perfectly fine. If you have data. So data is key, is what I'm trying to say. If you have no data, then your searches don't work for crap. Sorry about that. It didn't even occur to me that I'd blown away my database. Good times. Way to start off the morning. Okay, so at the end of the day, you notice that I was looking at the actual documentation for this, and it turns out right here, it already has a starting with. So I'm actually going to just I'll leave these in just so you have an example, but really at the end of the day, we're just going to do list game find by name starting with string name. Controller will flip out because it doesn't have a, it'll be find, there we go. And we're gonna wipe this out as well. Okay, so this will give us a starting with, if I restart, it should pretty much do what we expect it to do. Okay, so we're gonna do Son. It totally gives us Sonic the Hedgehog. But what's the problem with this? S-O-N doesn't give us anything, okay? Now the cool part about this is another kind of feature that you have with these queries involves the fact that you can come over here and you can say, starting with ignore case. Ignore case. Restart. And the ignore case basically does what I told you to do a few weeks ago, which is just upper on both things, right? So both things are upper or both things are lower. It doesn't matter which one it is, as long as they're both run through the same thing, and then we can do sun, and you get Sonic again. Cool?
Does that ignore the case? All the letters?
No, it ignores the case of only that, like say like you had both like name and platform. It'll ignore whatever comes right before it. So if you did find by name and platform, ignore case, it would only ignore case for the platform. In order to do the different thing, all you have to do is, if I'm correct, I think it's all ignore case, and that will automatically ignore all cases. Additionally, you can also do, let's see, let's do find by genre. Yeah, let's do, oh, we only have one. Oh, but we have two of these. And let's do, you can also do sort, or I'm sorry, not sort, order by name descending. And we're going to go back to game tracker controller, which should be freaking out right now. Oh, no, we changed it. So we're going to do find by release year. Order by name descending. Restart, it should order, it should actually order all of our genre, or not genre, but year ones nicely. Let's see. What do we call it? Release year? Okay. So now if we come in here and say question mark release year equals, we did 2 games of 2010. So it orders it reverse alphabetical order because I did descending. Cool, right? That's kind of fun. And all of this is available with your JPA stuff. There's a ton more. You have the find one, which all of you kind of found. You can also do find first, right? So you can find first. Now, if you're going to do first, you better make sure that there's only one of them. Or you need to do the ordering, because then otherwise you have no idea what you're getting back, right? If there's only one of them, you can probably just do get one. But you'll notice is like find first. You can also do find top, find first 10, which will effectively, well, that's just pageable.
What is top describing? Like top.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's just basically finding, oh, well, yellow one. Let's see. So this one right here, find first 10. You notice how it's passing in a sort. So you can pass in a sort, and that'll be the top 10. But I don't know, maybe top and first is the same thing. Let's read it. Results query methods can be limited via the keywords first or top, which can be used interchangeably. So they're both the same thing. So basically, you can just ask for the first 10 things that come back. When we get to pageables and paging, all of that will work fine. Make sense? So just a couple things to be aware of while you're doing it. So just wanted to show you that. Now we're going to kind of go in. We're going to get a little bit more complex. Obviously, we want more than just game. So we're going to need to do something more fun. Let's see. And the way we're going to do more fun is we're adding more to this program. Step 1, new class, user. We're going to store user. Okay, and we're gonna say table, and we're gonna say name equals users. Okay, user is a reserved word inside of Postgres. If you do user, which is what the default is, I personally like pluralized I don't like pluralized users or pluralized names actually for a single, but if you were to do user as a table, your system would kind of blow up with a really strange error. So you always want to make sure that reserved words, we actually have the same thing. At Zappos, all of our tables were named singularly, right? So it wasn't products, it was products, right? It's a table of products. But what happened was that we had one table that was plural, and it was hors d'oeuvres. Because you can't really create, without all sorts of problems, you can't really create an order table. Because the order is a reserved word by every SQL database on the planet. So order by caused a problem, so we had hors d'oeuvres, okay? Same with users, so we're basically doing users. Although I did the other one as games, not game. There's a big holy war between these two. I used to be firmly on the singular side. As I've gotten older and more experienced, I realized that I just don't care. Pick one, stick with it, right? So if you're gonna do a major project, don't have order and users, right? Or don't have, game and users, right? Just pick one. Either your tables are pluralized or your tables are singular. I don't care. Pick one, stick with it throughout. Consistency is more important than whether or not you pluralize your tables. Because at least if you're consistent, but you're wrong, you're consistently wrong. So someone can come in and go, I don't like this. It's like, that's fine, but everything else is like this, so go for it. Python is actually one of the best for this type of talking. They basically have a style sheet or a style guide that says, this is the way you should write your Python code. And then it says, and then it basically says that, however, consistency is more important than the style guide. So if basically if you join a project where they're doing everything one way and it's consistent across the project, you do it that way even if it violates the style guide. Because they're consistently doing it one way, and you doing it the right way will actually make the code less readable because you're the only one doing it that way. So always kind of conform to the environment you're in. There's nothing bad about maybe pushing them to use styles, using more consistent styles and stuff. But to that end, it's not do what the environment has you do. Don't go in and be that kind of jerk who's like pioneering, changing everything inside the system.
So if you pluralize all of your table names, then you wouldn't ever run into that user problem.
I would be very leery to say never. There's just too many different varieties of SQL to believe that there's not one that will have a problem with it. That being said, though, pluralizing your table names generally keeps you out of trouble much better than not pluralizing your table names. It also depends, right? Depends on what you're doing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the private int ID the way we have been doing it. Give it a nice ID. All right. Now I ran into this problem yesterday. And I'm going to bring it up because it's like one of the worst problems. Notice how there's two IDs? Picking the wrong one will actually cause errors. Import errors are actually they're common enough and they're irritating enough. The only real way to figure it out is just, if everything seems to be going wrong, I've had these errors enough, I'll delete the import and try it again. Especially if I saw there were multiple of them, I'll go back in and play around and see if there's another one that seems like it would work. So she picked org.spring framework. How dare her, as we learn about Spring, pick org.spring framework. It's actually not it. You actually have to pick Java X persistence. So just letting you know, if you run into these problems, don't get down on yourself. It's one of the frustrating problems is that ID is such a common word that there's really no getting around it. Another one is user, or there's a few different. The more libraries you put in, the more likely you're going to have these conflicts. You just have to know. One of the hints here, though, is everything else is Java X persistence. So in general, I try to keep with whatever the imports are, and then if it doesn't work, I just go to the other one and see if that works. I don't have all of this stuff memorized, so don't feel that like that. I just would try the other one. Okay, so we're going to do generated value. Okay, next one we're going to do string name column. Nullable is false. We're also going to add a second thing you haven't seen since we've been in the database. Unique equals true. When it sets up this column, it's going to force the database to put a unique key on this column in this field, basically saying two people cannot have the same name. It's as simple as that. So the database will effectively blow up if you try to put two people with the same name. There are more graceful ways to handle this, but if you need it, like usually it's not on name, it's usually on username or email address. You can only have one of them. And when you do, like you need to be really strict on it. So you put unique equals true, and then only one person can have that name. Fortunately for us, we don't have a super popular product yet. So the string password, column, nullable is false. I want both of these things all the time. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a constructor, but I'm going to leave it as the default constructor, right? Because Spring needs a default constructor. It needs to be able to create the object without actually passing anything into it. I'm going to create another constructor for me, which is just username and password. And then all the getters and setters. There you go. All right, so user's pretty much good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and this is where you're going to see this template starting to get progressively more scary. First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here. I'm going to say not user. So if the user is not logged in, and we're going to say do our form. And so all I'm doing now is I'm just going to create a login system. That's it. And you've already done so many login systems at this point, this should probably be second nature. So method, of course, is going to be post. We're altering something on the server. We're going to say input type equals text, as always. Placeholder, username. Name equals username. And you know what? We're going to try the fun HTML thing required. Which is just an HTML. It's like the browser will force you to do that. Otherwise, it'll whine at you. You don't have it. Input type is text. Actually, type is password. Remember, this is the thing that does the ... thing. A placeholder. Password. Name equals password. We're going to say it's also required. Submit, and we're going to say login. Means everything else is going to be pound user. We'll come all the way to the end. Do /user. You see how this is starting to get a little bit messy, right? And it can get messy, but a lot of times, sometimes you have it on there, sometimes you don't. It just all depends on what you want to do or how much of a stickler you are. Okay, if I do have user, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say, welcome, name. We're going to do form, action. We're going to basically post to log out. I say basically a lot, especially since We're not basically doing it, we are doing it. And then remember, it's just one button for logouts. Type submit, log out. So we'll put a log out button at the top. Okay. All right, so we have a login. It's going to go to login and log out. I'm going to go ahead and start it. I'm just not going to click any of those buttons because I'll get errors. Errors are bad, okay. With Spring, you can also change that banner message if you really want to be cool. We had all sorts of different banner messages this shift. So we would rename it to whatever our project was. You could get like ASCII art generators. We generate all the words in ASCII. It was kind of fun. All right, so username and password is there, and then everything else is missing. So until I fix the rest of this, there's not much that's going to happen. All right, so right here, though, notice how we're getting users not found, right? Remember that from yesterday. When it sees that, it's going to go ahead and it's going to try to create it. So we're going to do game tracker, p-SQL game tracker. And I'm going to go ahead and do \d, which will give me information. And now I have a users table. Creatively enough, I have nothing in it, which is super unfortunate. If only we had something in it. But we will, I promise. Okay, so we have that all done. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here and we're going to create a repository. New Java class, tell it's an interface. We're going to call it the user repository. Extends. We'll do cred for now. And this is user, comma, integer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do user find first by name. Now, honestly, you shouldn't need to do like find first. You probably, but this is the way you would actually name it. But if you think about it, there should be no more than one by name, right? We put a unique on the column. There's only ever going to be one. Otherwise, it'll just explode and say you can't do this. Okay. So we're going to do find first by name. We're going to call it username, and it's going to save off, or it's going to send us back a nice user. Huzzah! Exactly what we'd want. So let's go back into the game tracker controller, which is getting progressively ridiculous, right? Like, I'm not going to fix it today, but you kind of see like it's kind of doing more and more and more stuff. And eventually you're going to want to figure out a way to break that up. For right now, it's fine though. We're going to do auto-wired, user repository, users. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is now we're actually going to go in and we're going to add a couple quick controllers. We're going to do login and password again, or login and log out. Let's mapping path equals logouts or login. Let's do login first. I always do logging. I don't know why. So like a lot of times you'll see it's login with a G at the end. So I don't have two G's in the middle. So it's just misspelled every way to Tuesday. So public string login. We need the session, right? For our login things, we need the session in order to find, be able to add stuff to the session, take stuff out. We're going to grab the string username, string password. Okay. All right. So we're going to do user equals users dot find by first name. We're going to hand it the username. And we're going to go in, we're going to say if user equal null. We're going to do what we were doing before. It's like a fast registration process. You're not going to find it much on the internet, but we've always, like, this class has always done it. So we're going to do user equals new user username and then password. So we're just going to create a new user, and then we're going to go users.save, and we're going to toss it in so that the user can actually be saved. Else if not password dot equals user dot get password, and we're just going to throw a new exception saying incorrect password, you slimy hacker. It's got to suck if, like, you're having a bad day and you put in the wrong password by accident. We all, like, are insulting about it. I'm gonna add it to the signature, because at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do. We're actually throwing it, so we want to add it to the signature so that someone else can catch it. We're basically saying, this isn't our problem. Let Spring deal with this, which it will, and it'll give you one of those white label error pages effectively. All right, and then we're going to do session.setAttribute, username. We're going to return our redirect back to this. All right, any questions in this method, right? I'm not doing anything earth-shattering here. The only thing really that's changed is that we're adding users.save, right? This is just like your username and password of any time, anything before. You store it inside of the user, you check the password. So all of this should seem very, very familiar to you, which I'm hoping is giving your brain a little bit of breather from everything that you've learned about Spring thus far. Okay, request mapping, path. We're going to do the logout. Method, request. And it's going to be post. Public, string, logout. Obviously need the session so I can destroy it. Pretty much it. Session, invalidate. Return, redirect. For our high school jock level of popularity controller, which is /, which everything goes to. All right, so we now have all of this created. You log in, log out. I'm not even going to test it. Like, if it breaks, we'll fix it here in a minute. But I mean, you've done, I don't know, what is it, a dozen of these now? What, between class and your homework, every one of them has had a log in and log out function. And so, that's kind of, it is what it is. So you have the log in, log out functions. Next, we're going to go in, and what I want to do is we want to talk about relations, right? Not like Monica Lewinsky, but like relationships, joins inside of the system. Games, if it's a game tracker, we may want to have a game attached to a user, right? That doesn't may mean that we have duplicates, but effectively every game is attached to some user. Okay. Now the user is going to have mini games. And so what we're going to do is we're going to effectively add a mini to one relationship on games, right? So we're going to say this game has a mini to one to user, which means I'm the mini as game and user is the one. So remember in SQL, what this translates to is the game table will have a user ID column that is a foreign key to the users table. Everybody remember that? Okay, and that's all it's going to set up. And the cool part is that because we're using Hibernate, it will automatically set that up for you. Because as soon as it runs, that's what the DDL thing does. As soon as it runs, it says, oh, this isn't right, add the column, which is why I had to dump the database. Otherwise, you would see that. And it wouldn't be nearly as dramatic and exciting. As I can tell, you're all super excited. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into game, and it's going to be super intense. User at many-to-one. There you go, huzzah! That's it. Okay, so you do many-to-one, user. Next time it runs, it will find that there's no relationship there. It will actually add the field. If you don't believe me, which you probably do at this point, I generally tell you the truth. Okay, select star from games. Miss 1C. Okay, nothing here. Nothing up this sleeve. Nothing up this sleeve. Let's go ahead and stop and run. Which is actually really fun. I like the fact, I love it when ORMs do stuff like this because it makes your life a lot easier. I've done the manual way, which a lot of you are probably going to end up having to do with database changes. And this is just a nicer way to do it. Now, you'll notice that none of these have a user ID, which is a problem. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to fix this by simply logging in a couple times. Actually, we're just going to log in once. So let's actually reset this. We're going to, oh, wait, I didn't do anything. Oh, whatever. Okay. So we're going to come over here. We're going to come back to Chrome. Let's log in. Bob is logging in. We're going to do lowercase Bob. Bob is not a security person. His password is password. Damn it, Bob. All right, so something bad happened. We're just not done? Let's try it again. Bob, you're disappointing me. Okay. All right, well, that's. User's not null. Set attribute username. What am I missing? Oh, I didn't change this thing. Forgot to change slash, right? I'm not actually pulling anything from the user, like from the session, to say that the username needs to be changed. To come in here, I'm going to basically say user equals users. Actually, what we're going to do. String username equals session. I'm going to add the session. Okay, so we're going to grab the session. We're going to say get attribute, and we're going to come in here and we're going to say username. Grab the username. Here's your problem. Screw you. It's complaining because all session attributes are all objects, right? So it's complaining that you can't just have an object equals string equal an object. So you have to cast it to string. So then we're going to come in here. We're going to say user. Well, actually, we're going to say and we can probably do it. So user equals users. Find by first name, and we're going to say username. If user does not equal null, we're we're going to go ahead and we're going to add it to the model. There you go. Now when we run it, it should actually work. But you can see that even I forgot to do that, right? When you have multiple entry points and multiple things using stuff, sometimes you can forget things. Don't think that you're just being stupid. It can happen, and it does happen. And it's okay that it happens. It's not the end of the world. You're just figuring it out. Takes a couple seconds. All right. Bob, password. All right, welcome Bob, huzzah!
What was the little box that popped up?
It's 1Password. I'll show you 1Password tomorrow. That's part of my security lecture as to here's how I can hack your bank account right now in this class. I won't, because it's a federal crime. And if you're going to do a federal crime, you don't do it in front of 3 witnesses. Unless they're committing it with you, at which point they're in just as much hot water. All right. Okay, so now that we have a user, so let's do select star from users. Normally you would lay this out, right? You would lay it out before you even started the game tracker. So you would probably have all these objects already set up. So you wouldn't have this problem with user ID. So select star from games. You wouldn't have this blank user ID. The way we could fix this is, you'll notice right here, for whatever reason, users is 5. This does this every time. I have no idea why on my computer it's 5. But really all I need is that ID, and then I can just do update games set user ID equal to 5. Okay. Once again, the only reason that did give me pause is I just did it this morning. Otherwise, I would be panicked, right? Because why? What is missing from that statement that I've warned you is a huge danger in update? What happens if there's a million records in games?
You change it.
Like where?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where?
Yeah. If there is no where statement in a delete or an update, make sure that you train your brain to get nauseated. Okay? You should be scared of running update and delete statements. Okay? Always be scared. This is something you should train yourself to be scared of. Because if you train yourself to be scared of, then what happens is that you don't make that mistake. If you don't train yourself to be scared of this, what will happen is you will make this mistake. It will be devastating to you, and then you'll be afraid of it from that point on. So if you can, learn from my many mistakes and don't always be scared if you don't have a where statement. All right, so now user ID is 5, right? So the cool part about this is one of my favorite things about ORMs. The cool part about this is if we just come right back into here, okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. I'm just going to debug this the same way I was debugging it before, okay? But now I'm going to show you kind of the fun thing about this. Why are you not debugging? Oh, right. Okay, we're going to refresh. Because of the one-to-many relationships, ORM automatically goes through your relationships and puts them together for you. So watch. So it gets all lists of games. So let's just look at what's in there. Here's our game list, right? Right down here. I have 4 games. Those are all the games I put in there. So no big surprise there. Look at that. It's got a user object, not just a user ID, a user object. So you can literally open this up and see that user, which is really kind of, it's super duper useful, right? Because imagine how many times you're going to have a one-to-many relationship. You could just go in and it'll auto-populate that information for you, which is just brilliant. Because now you don't have to go in and run another query. It just auto-populates. Now, on the flip side, it's running a query in the background, but, you know, kind of cool. All right, so let's go ahead and play it. And now I have access. So say like I want to come in here. And right here, where I list off all the games owned by, let's try doing this. User dot name. So of course, user doesn't have a name, it has a username. No, it has a name, okay. By Jeff, by Jeff, by Jeff. What? I'm a little bit concerned it figured out who I am, to be honest. I am somewhat at a loss here. I'm a little bit disconcerted, actually. Username Bob, game list. I'm mostly really just confused what it's pulling, like where it's getting my name. It's going to come up with, I see you, Jeff. We know what you did.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. For each game as a user dot name. That's interesting. There's a term called ghost in the machine. And so it's a anime, but there is actually people use a ghost in the machine where things just work weird, right? When you get complex code or something like that, they just are really, really strange.
I had a question while you know, in the user class, how you had you put many to one.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the user be many to one versus one to many, and the games be many to one?
So hold on, I had this in my head this morning. I think it goes reverse of that. Hold on, let's see. Let's see. Defines a single valued association to another entity class that has a many-to-one multiplicity. It is not normally necessary to specify the target entity explicitly, since it can usually be inferred. Because that's the way they put it. So basically what you're not actually saying this is many, the other one's one. You're actually reversing it and you're saying, I am putting this user here and it is a many-to-one relationship. Well, no, hold on. No, the games are many, the user is one. So that's what it is, yeah, right? Like, so in this class, I have a user. This class is many, that class is one. Right? So.
The user class is many?
No, this class, game class, is many. So there are many games for one user. So that it works semantically.
But you're in the user class, right?
No, I'm in the game class.
Or?
Yeah. Game class. Many to one user.
Oh, okay. That's what I was confused.
Okay, yeah, that would be confusing. Also, it would be a connection to the exact same user. But you can do that, I think. You should. Every once in a while, you'll have to do it. It's messy. All right. Okay, so I am going to be completely honest and tell you I have absolutely no idea why my name keeps coming up in this template. If that happens, yeah, because there's like no Jeff anywhere inside of our code.
Yeah. Or any of those people.
No, I don't get it. Unless Jeff is inside the database, though. I wonder if it's somehow. Doing something weird with that, where it's basically saying, get the user of the. Remember how user is actually a keyword? I wonder if it's somehow inadvertently grabbing the user.name, like the actual user of the database. None of this makes sense to me, just in case you were thinking that I'm coming up with a legit reason why this is happening.
Are you saying there's another table that we don't see?
Well, yeah, there's a whole database that you don't see. So my guess is if we're in here, right? I don't know. I don't know where it's getting. It has to be from the database, though. I don't know why the database is returning this. In the event that you get that, all you got to do is just change it from user.name to user.getName. Alternatively, in the future, what you probably want to do is say, like, you have something like game. You may want to have an owner. So instead of user, just do owner, and that will probably work because there is nothing. There's no owner in there. Well, no, there is actually, but it's less likely. But yeah, it's creepy that it got my name. My own program has now just hacked my life. Hopefully it's just kind of in love with me and obsessed, because I can work with that. If it's malicious, if it's an evil, malicious AI, I'm screwed. All right, let's see. Okay. All right, so it's like, well, we could probably finish this up in the next 7 minutes. So I really want you guys to at least have a break once. So let's quickly add an add game. I'm going to go into game. One thing I forgot to do is this user is not actually in the constructor. So I'm actually going to do a user in the constructor, and then just simply do this.user equals user. This way we can, in our controller, we can add our route that will allow us to add, add the actual game tracker. Actually, wait, we're not adding a route. We already have that. Hold on. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so right here, and this automatically errors this. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. We're going to do the same thing we did before, which is why I'm going to just copy and paste it. Although, if I'm copying and pasting it, it should probably just go in another method. So we're going to add game. It's going to grab the user, and then we pass the user. Now, if user is null, we probably should just error. Okay, so I'm gonna toss an error out in the event that it's not it, and we're gonna save. And that should be good to go. Okay. So apparently we could do it in 7 minutes. So that's all I did, just making sure this comes in. At the end of the day, I would probably create public user get user from session string username, and then just grab these 2 lines, dump them in here. I guess we don't actually need that, sorry. String username user, then up here we can just simply say user equals get user from session. Up here, same thing. Yay! Cut out 2 whole lines of code. So there we go. Now we're not copying and pasting it, although we do have an error somewhere. Hold on. Damn it. All right, apparently I have to pause session. See what?
Well, I just want to see that actually. So you can take the HTTP session out of the 2 top things.
No. They're going to have to pass it.
Well, they still have to.
Well, yeah, because it has no way to get it. Remember, this is all magic. So we just pass it the session.
Oh.
That way I can pull it from the session. This was already had to have been erroring. I didn't have this in here. Ta-da! Okay. There we go. So this should actually add it. Let's do a quick refresh of the system, make sure it doesn't explode, and then we'll add another game. And we'll make sure that it puts it in with good old Bob. Or Jeff. Depending. That's how powerful my presence is on this system. All right, other game. Let's do StarCraft 2. That's what we said yesterday. Strategy game, platform, PC. Release year was like 2013 or something. Add game. He's owned by Bob.
Well, we're going to change the Bob because you changed it.
Because I changed it to a center. Or getter, sorry. All right, any questions about this? Okay.